was really nice.
Welcome everybody to Alumni Talk. We're back. This is the media broadcasting side of the ABL. This is our podcast, and we host different alumni that's played at different colleges. Make sure you follow our website, ablballing.com, as we look forward to bring you some alumni games throughout this year. Follow us at the ABL USA on Twitter, ABL Ball on Instagram, and ablballing.com. Also, this podcast will be on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. We have here a Georgetown alumni and also one of the players in our first ABL game, Rodney Pryor. Also, I consider him a friend, a mentee, whatever you want to call it. I've known him for a long time. So, Rodney, just to get started, just talk about how you got started in basketball. A lot of people don't know your story from Chicago to Georgetown. So just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I grew up in a football household. My oldest brother was really good at football, so we started out in football, and then we had a feeder program league called FAM in Evanston that I started in sixth grade. And I was a scrub, so like I grew up like a fanboy of players. So my era was still like we're historians of the game. So and we enjoyed playing in the park every single day. So you had opportunities every single day to expand your game, and that's what happened. Took it into high school. I made the freshman B team my freshman year. We had a loaded class. And then from freshman B, made the sophomore team where we were super loaded, where it was 5 in, 5 out. And then I transferred private to Notre Dame, where my junior year was terrible, just getting acclimated to a different system, different structure, all boys school, more discipline. And then had a breakout senior year, but just picked up momentum late, had to go Juco. I go Juco, and then didn't have the first year I expected to have, ended up transferring just because the league wasn't that great. Even with me not playing, we were still winning games by 30. So I transferred to the Jayhawk West in Kansas, where I ended up at Cloud. Broke my foot the first year, was able to come back, got more athletic after that rehab for my foot. Got invited to the Juco Top 100 camp, gained a little bit of interest there. First day of practice of my third year in Juco, I tear my ACL. So back-to-back season-ending injuries. Then I was blessed with a Division I scholarship to Robert Morris, where Marquise Reed was a freshman there, and I met Rick. And it was a pivotal moment in my career, meeting Rick, having Marquise there, just that group of guys we had that year. And then did another year, my senior year, made first team all-league. My junior year, we went to the tournament, led the team in scoring. And then after senior year, we decided to do it.
Let's go back to that team real quick, not to cut you off. That team that went to the tournament. I mean, you're talking about yourself and Marquise. People don't know that Jerry Lau sat out on that team.
Yeah.
Lucky Jones. I mean, Elijah Minnie. I mean, I tell people that team right there comes back all together is a top 25 team in the country.
Yeah.
Y'all gave Duke a run until, Jaleel Okafor was just too much. But, I mean, you had Justice Winslow matched up evenly. Marquise had Quinn Cook neutralized. Man, that was a great game. How was it in that game? At that point, is that when you realized you could play high major?
Yeah, that year, I didn't, Keith had the breakout year or the breakout game versus Carolina. I didn't have a good game at Carolina. But every other high major game or higher level mid-major, we were able to get numbers. So that in itself gave us confidence going into the NEC, and we ran through the NEC. And like our practices, man, with the talent we had was better than some of the NEC games that year. So competing every single day with Marquise, Jarris, before Jarris ended up leaving, Elijah Minnie, Lucky Jones, Dave Apollon, Kayvon Stewart. Like we
Kayvon
had a
Stewart.
mob
Yeah.
that year. So going into tournament play, um, just had a lot of momentum, had a lot of confidence, hitting big shot after big shot, getting numbers. And then when we got to the first four-in game versus North Florida, we came back from down like 20 in the second half, won that game. I think me and Keith had over 20 in that game. So at this point now, it's just you living your dream, you're having fun, trying to enjoy the moment. We get to North Carolina, and we played in Charlotte. It was at the Hornets Arena, so it was Duke crazy in there. But yeah, going into the game, you just got to exit the noise and look at the person across from you and can I beat him? Um, can I outplay this person? And me, Keith, Lucky, we had such an offensive driven team. It became like an inside game of who's the most efficient scorer. So like we were challenged on all fronts. So I think that gave us an opportunity to go and show well versus Duke.
No, I mean it was great watching it, man. I remember sitting there and being so proud of you guys for like just like just like head to head with the number one team in the country. I think at the time was
Yeah.
it was so we know you accomplished a lot at NEC. I mean, probably one of the best scores ever to come through there. To be honest, now your recruitment comes for your transfer year, right? We know the process and all of that. Like, talk about what schools wanted you and what it was like, just going your mindset from, man, I just need somewhere to go as a freshman out of JUCO to I'm being recruited by some of the top schools in the country.
Yeah, it was I never had that. Our era was the envelopes and having them in the shoebox. So I never like got a taste of that in my high school career. And the leaving Robert Morris, I was 23. So entering the portal, I think I was the number one grad transfer
You were
in the
number five.
portal. Number
Number
five,
five.
yeah.
Corey Holden was number one.
Oh, um, and coming in, so we had Florida, Kansas, South Carolina,
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga, Georgetown. I mean, we had a host of other like fringe, like good high major schools. Had a couple conversations with some guys. What other schools was there? But I mean, Kansas was big time. I remember being, I remember being on campus at Robert Morris, and I know the Kansas area code because I played JUCO there. And I remember it was after a workout, I get a Kansas call and it's Bill Self. And in those moments, I'm feeling like I'm 15 again and I'm a 23-year-old 5-year college guy. So it was just a wonderful opportunity to get to experience some of the things you dream about as a youngin.
No, I mean, and one of the things you did that these kids can learn from, because remember at the time, only grad seniors could play right away.
Yeah,
Now everybody can play right away. So one thing you did was you pretty much only took one visit. Um, Now kids will play around with it, and the problem with that is it's too many options now. Like,
yeah.
so I think just kind of speak on like the how hard Georgetown recruited you in that time frame.
Yeah, Georgetown recruited me hard. I know at this time their mindset was trying to upgrade their offense from a dynamic standpoint because we all know they with JT3 we were running the Princeton. So the year I was uh, in the portal, it was talks about just creating a more hybrid Princeton, running it as sets. But yeah, they recruited me hard. I mean, I was blessed and fortunate to have you in my circle where we could really engage in the hard conversations about what is the best decision going to be, what's the best school going to be, what's the makeup of the team, who is returning, what's the culture. And I think the top five that year was Georgetown, Florida, Kansas, Gonzaga, and South Carolina. Everybody else in that top five went to the Elite Eight, and Gonzaga went on to play the championship game. But man, they recruited me hard. So again, it was like that weird balance of like, man, I feel like a kid again, but I'm also a 23-year-old college basketball player that got 1 year left, so I got to make a good decision. So factoring in like the powerhouse of a schedule we had that year, we were playing. Georgetown was playing in the Maui. It's the Big East, so every game is on national television. Um, so like being able to weigh all of the factors that was going to benefit my career and give me the best opportunity to go pro.
I mean, I think one of the things, so when you, I remember you getting to George, I remember you getting to Georgetown and in the league that summer. I mean, you would have thought Allen Iverson was back with the way that your debut in that summer league. I remember, I mean, because people weren't used to a Georgetown. In a prior podcast, I was talking about this with somebody, guards like just dominating the basketball at Georgetown, right? So you show what you got in the Kennedy League. I mean, and then opening tip off during the season, the ball is in your hands, and people are like, I mean, even the older guys are like, how did this guy get the ball in his hands, and I didn't have it in my hands?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was funny, man. Growing up in Evanston, we're a northern suburb of Chicago, so I'm still like, as a freshman, I'm watching Derrick Rose playing high school basketball games, and then the list goes down. Anthony Davis, Wayne Blackshear, like even my high school teammate Quentin Chivas ended up at Tennessee. So the aspiration to be D1 was a really big deal in the era I grew up with, and so committing to Georgetown. I don't know if you remember though, like ESPN articles were saying like, oh, going to be a great grad transfer coming off the bench, senior leader, like could probably give him 6 to 7 points in Big East play. And it was just, another field of fire. I knew what I wanted to do when I got there and I knew what I was capable of, but it is funny getting that much scrutiny before you even pick up a ball. And Kenner League was still like a big deal at the time where pros, NBA guys, top overseas guys was
What
coming
you had
back.
35 in your first Kennedy game or
Yeah,
40?
30,
It was
yeah, like 35. I averaged like 40 the whole
yeah, I remember
the,
it was
the
insane.
whole summer, yeah. And
So I
then
mean,
just
so
like we was the first year of the new facility too. So I'm coming
mhm.
from tore down Juco, not great facilities at Robert Morris. So when I got to Georgetown, this was like that real like sleep in the gym, being there getting workouts in. So like I just had another level of drive when I got there. So I was able to be confident in what I could do in our workouts and individuals, and then going into the Kinder League play.
I mean, and I mean, I think you and Josh Hart went back and forth in terms of leading the Big East and scoring. I mean, and you and LJ Peak were great in the court. I mean, I felt like even though you guys didn't have the season you might have won it, it was some good moments. I mean, you guys played Maryland, right? Not a lot of people in Georgetown can say they played Maryland. Um,
Yeah,
but one of the things I want to kind of ask you about when it comes to Georgetown is, and I know it's a lot going on there now, but what about your time there makes you hopeful about what can happen in the future? Because a lot of people like to dwell on, oh, this is going on, they're losing. Every school goes through that. I mean, different extents. I mean, it happens, right? So, like, what makes you hopeful? What from your experience at Georgetown says to you that Georgetown can once again be a top 25 program at some point?
I think the momentum around the basketball program, like Georgetown's still Georgetown. It's a big time school, and when you get connected to that network, you realize how many people actually want to see Georgetown succeed. Because sometimes being the player and you're under the heat, and the coach is on the hot seat. So there's just like a lot of human emotions that go into it. But now, like being an alumni, and I'm at alumni events and we're talking, everybody wants to see Georgetown do well and figure out ways of how everyone can just have a hand in getting it back together. So that was one of the things I was excited to see as an alumni.
And you got to know Big John a little bit, before he passed. What was your relationship like with Big John?
It was good. I had a phenomenal relationship with him. I know he's a tough guy. He'll lay into you. He'll tell you his truth about how he feels. So, but the one thing he does respect is he respects work ethic. He respects character, and I think I was able to display that at a high level going there. So we engaged in phenomenal conversation like all the time because I'm a historian of the game. So like he's a big deal to me. Some of these guys that got to see him on his last leg, it wasn't as big of a deal. He was almost just like the old heckler. Uh,
So give us a Big John story.
oh, um, the one big one for me. was seeing him meet my mom. I mean, that was a big deal for me. But then, and like, it was always like, I like your mom, but I don't like you. Um,
That sounds like him.
and they buttered my mom up on the visit. But the one of my favorite Big John moments was we were getting ready to play St. John's, and we play St. John's in the Garden, and I'm having a really good individual season at this point. I think we were still doing well as a team. We finished out the non-conference pretty well coming into Big East play. I think I'm averaging like 20 something at this point. Um, and we're prepping that week for St. John's, and he just walks up to me and is like, "You know about the Mecca?" I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "Look up," and I looked up, and he was like, "You see those lights?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "The one in the Garden, they shine a little different," and just walked away from me. And he came on that trip too. So it was like every shot I hit, I'm just like turning, like staring at him in in the crowd.
No, I mean that is. It's funny. I've been in the same room with Big John in my lifetime multiple times. Never met him. Stood beside the guy a couple times and never met him. But
Really?
yeah, had never had. But it's okay because you. I always it's like you. I'm a historian. I respect the history, so I can appreciate what he did for this area of Georgetown basketball. I mean, you talking about taking the program from low major to a perennial national championship contender, and it's not a lot of because even like when you think about Coach K at Duke, Duke was a national championship game in the '60s. Like
Hmm.
people don't like in the Final Four the year Texas Western won. Duke was in the Final Four that year. It's like Duke was relevant. Coach K took it to another level, but to take a program from low major
Yeah.
and to make it a national in the Final Four 3 out of 4 years, and you may never see that again. And partly because it's not a lot of money in doing that, and it's easier to maybe come in a couple times and go to another job. But then,
Hmm.
also like I said, because it's hard to get the talent you need at a low major, mid major, and was ironically right. Robert Morris, if it wasn't for certain things, could be a pro. Had an opportunity to do that with you guys, and things fall apart. But that's just a testament to how hard it is to do that. So, you leave Georgetown. You're trying to figure out your professional situation. Just talk about your time as a pro so far.
My time as a pro has been real eye-opening. At this level, we're talking business, we're talking money. It's just a variety of factors that go in on furthering your playing career. Yes, you want at the end of the day what you do on the court to matter most, but at the pro level, there's so many outside factors. So I got hurt in my pre-draft, which slowed down a ton of my momentum. I was doing pre-draft with Drew Hanlon that year, so it was me, Jason Tatum, Frank Mason, who was AP Player of the Year. Tony Bradley's coming from the championship team with Carolina. So we had a lot of momentum in our pre-draft, and because I messed up my ankle really bad, I had to cancel workouts. And when you got to cancel workouts, there's never
Yeah,
any way you can dice it um, in that process. So ended up signing with Brooklyn because I'm still under that old metric of like I'm not going to sign an Exhibit 10. I'm gonna go to summer league. This was a bad team this year, so it's gonna be minutes. I'm gonna compete, do my thing in summer league, and get a deal. Because the years before that, that's kind of been that metric. I get there, Brooklyn sends 8 guys to summer league from the roster. So,
mm,
and this is Atkinson's first year, I believe. So he's head coach of our summer league team, and he wants to see the actual guys that's on the roster. So it just turned into not a great situation for rookies. I think I set up our first 2 games. And then when I got in, hit the three, came down on somebody's foot on that same ankle. So had to shut it down and decided to go to Turkey. And I'll be transparent with my journey. So we ended up taking the deal because it was 120. And we know that's a rare number for rookies. First division Turkey, it was a team on the lower half. Get out there, and it's just awful. The team ended up losing their sponsorship, so they didn't have the budget they thought they were going to have. So they're not paying guys, and I'm fresh out. And then the whole story, 2 days, not great facilities,
mm.
like I'm out there like my own trainer. So I ended up coming back home after 3 months, coming back to the G. All the stories I heard about the D League at the time, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna just eat and get my deal in the league. I get there, my first like 4 games, I got a DNP, and I'm literally on the team with guys that I fried just this past season. So I'm like not understanding it. So that was like a big blow. Weathering through my emotions at that time, still trying to exhibit character and be high standards. And then it was just been an everlasting battle of trying to get that leverage and momentum back in my career. So I played the last 5 years in the G League. Tried to give Russia a stint, but that didn't go. That didn't work out either.
You know, and that's the thing about this game, right? Is that it's not as ABC as like some people think it is. The journey's got peaks and valleys, but it builds character, and then you build connections with
Hmm.
people that can affect you long after basketball. Because I can personally say there's a lot of guys that made a lot of money in the NBA don't have it anymore, and they're trying to find people to help them versus guys that might not have had the NBA career they wanted, but the connections that they made allowed them to prosper on the other side. And I think you've been a great role model for everybody that ever met you, and that's kind of charted your course so that your relationships are going to carry you to what you have to do next. So, kind of going into that, what talk about what you have going on. Now, well, before we go there, the ABL basketball game you played in,
Yeah.
Maryland versus Georgetown. Talk about that whole experience.
Man, that was dope. I mean, I knew you were in the works with something like this, but to see it unfold, I just remember everybody like, how many people you think gonna show up? And then you get there and it's like packed. Like you just thinking like a quick little alumni game, competing. You actually got butterflies before the game. So I thought that was phenomenal. It was packed, sold out crowd. Just to reunite with some of the best Hoyas to put on a jersey, I thought was really good. Just because I only had 1 year there, so yeah, I'm almost like the stepchild
And
at
you
Georgetown.
got your payback versus Maryland, right?
Yeah, yeah, got my payback versus Maryland. But yeah, it was dope. It was dope to see because you got to remember, Chris, Mickey D. So like that Austin, Mickey D's, like Moose was a big deal, and like all the guys that we had playing. It's still surreal for me. Like the kid in me still won't let these moments get past me. So like I still got to remember, like, hey, you got to like go fry, but like.
And you got a check.
Yeah, and being paid, yeah, so that was big time too, just the amount of money we were able to get doing that. I thought that was
So Syracuse is on the books for next year.
yeah.
Going to Syracuse
Who's
is on the
playing them?
book. Well, for them, no, you got
Who's
Georgetown.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. So
I
because you
was
guys won, we want to give you guys another game against. So it'll be in Syracuse, though. I'm in the process of working on that now. Hopefully, we'll have everything finalized in a couple weeks. But they're talking about bringing some dogs out, man. They saw y'all beat
yeah.
Maryland, and so like Eric Devendorf is the captain.
Okay.
Um, he's putting together a nice little roster. So
Yeah, and I just feel bad for me. Like the youngest guys they had was um
and
tr
Aunt Mello.
yeah, Aunt Mella. Everybody else is struggling to get up the court. So I think if Syracuse can bring their pros that's still currently playing, guys just kind of right after being done, I think it'll be highly competitive. And that's why I'm curious to see where it can go at this rate of competitiveness. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
No, I mean it's we'll see, man. We got some games on the books, so but Georgetown Syracuse is the one that's like we're just waiting to finalize the arena, and then we're going to roll with it. But before we go, just what talk about what you're doing right now and how the viewers and everybody can support you.
yeah, right now became a entrepreneur. Now I'm a business owner. Started a company called Identity Made. So basically, using my experience from my journey and putting it into an athletic apparel brand, because brand matter in sports. So we outfit teams with travel gear, book bags, the whole nine, uniforms, socks, tights, because it's a big deal for athletes. And then, but also coupling it with mentorship and bringing awareness to athletes to begin to maximize their identity apart from playing because you're more than your play, and it's just a vehicle at the end of the day. But if we keep our identity in the sport, it sometimes will do you dirty in the long haul. So we want athletes that come under our brand to be advantageous for life, not just the game.
Man, yeah, man. I appreciate you sponsoring my middle school team. Look back, they love their bags. We showed them off in the video we did. So I appreciate you, man. Being able to connect with you the last 8 years and great, and We built a great relationship. So everybody, that's Rodney Pryor. Again, this is the Alumni Talk podcast. Visit our website, ablbottom.com. This podcast will be available on Apple Podcasts as well as YouTube. So thank you guys, and check you out next time.